Morein, Yemen was already reeling from a humanitarian catastrophe when Saudi Arabia imposed a land, sea and air blockade on the country earlier this month. The poorest Arab nation has now plunged into further crisis, with the UN warning of the largest famine the world has seen for many decades there if the blockade is not lifted. The Saudis say the blockade, imposed after a long-range missile from Yemen was intercepted near Riyadh airport on November 4, was aimed at preventing the Houthi rebels from smuggling in weaponry. But in effect, Riyadh is starving millions of people who are already dependent on international aid for food and drugs. For almost 3 years, Saudi Arabia has been bombing Yemen with impunity. King Salman launched the war with the aim of defeating the Houthis, who the Saudis see as Iranian proxies. The U.S., then under President Barack Obama, offered support for the Saudi campaign. Now the war has entered a stalemate, with the Saudis seeing no face-saving exit. More than 10,000 people have been killed in the Saudi bombing, and many more injured and displaced. The country doesn't have a functional government. Large parts, including Sana'a, the capital city, are controlled by the Houthis, while the Saudi-backed government is operating from Aden, a southern city. Al-Qaeda has become stronger in the chaos triggered by the war. Further, incessant bombing and the failure to provide basic services have resulted in a food crisis and a medical emergency. At present, 17 million people in Yemen are dependent on external aid for survival. The country has also seen a cholera outbreak. Despite the terrible consequences of its actions, Saudi Arabia has not halted bombing. There has been no meaningful effort from the international community to put pressure on Riyadh to end the war either. Worse, the Trump administration in the U.S. seems to have issued a carte blanche to Riyadh over its regional interventions, which allowed the Saudis to impose the blockade. Regional power play. The problem is that Saudi Arabia and its allies look at Yemen as a theater for regional power play. The Saudis don't want the Houthis to control the country as they fear it would end Iran's influence right to its backyard. But Saudi Arabia lacks the strategic depth and resources to shape Yemen's future, and yet, driven by geopolitical ambitions, it is resorting to excessive use of air power. But that is not enough to defeat the Houthis, who have the support of both the country's Shia community and the loyalists of the deposed President Ali Abdullah Saleh. As a result, the Houthis still remain powerful even as Saudi Arabia continues to attack Yemen's cities. From the blockade, it is evident that Saudi Arabia will not wind down this war. But the UN and other international bodies can't ignore this man-made disaster. They should deal with Saudi Arabia in the way aggressor nations are dealt with and bring some real pressure on the kingdom to end this brutal war. Please wait while comments are loading.